Hello everyone, it's Fix My Sauna, and in today's video we're going to show you guys how to install or how to wire one of our brand new for 2023 power supply, universal power supply and universal controller, so you can get your sauna up and running. I will go into all the details later of why you shouldn't repair the parts that you have, and why this power supply is so much better than anything out there right now. And of course, we have 20 years backing us on what we're saying here. But today's video is strictly to show you guys how to wire this power supply into your sauna. So tools that you're going to need, okay? You're going to need a multimeter here, and now of course we tried to find the lowest end or lowest quality or cheapest multimeter, because most people aren't going to have what we have. So this is about the cheapest one we could find. It's been sitting around here for a while. So you're going to need a multimeter, check voltage on your heaters, to ensure that you have the right cables. You're going to need a pair of wire strippers. Again, these are a little bit more advanced than what you need. And then we also have another, this is usually what we use in local installs for wire strippers. Those are really the tools you're going to need. You might need a screwdriver, to remove the old power supply. But this is kind of the tools that you need. So as you can see, it's really not much. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to locate the power supply that's in your sauna. So the power supply is generally going to be in the ceiling. Sometimes it's in the floor, and sometimes it has a dust cover on the top of the ceiling, so you actually have to remove that dust cover. But it's really easy. They're usually really easy to get to, and if all else fails, just follow the power cable that you plug into your wall, and it should lead you right to the power supply in most saunas. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to locate this power supply. So once you find this power supply in your old sauna, you want to take all the pictures of all the connections that you currently have on the power supply that you have. Before you remove anything, take pictures, because it's going to make your life a lot easier in case you need to go back and reference something. So I will throw up a couple different images here of different power supplies. But the first thing that we want to find on your old power supply is all of your heater connections. Now, some of the power supplies are going to have what we call these IEC connections, which is awesome. This is going to work great for you. It's not going to be a lot of cutting and wire manipulation. You can just simply plug in, so it's going to be super easy for you. Others are going to have super funky looking connections on them. Don't ask us. I don't know why they would use some of the things that they use. But in those particular circumstances, you're gonna want to find out how many heaters you have and how many connections you have. This box is going to have 6 connections on it, so 6 heater connections, and there is a schematic on how, if you have more heaters than that, how to basically bridge the heaters. But in most saunas, heaters are run in rails, so or in series, sometimes parallel too. But in series, you basically have 2 heaters on one line. So these 2 heaters here in this sauna would be on one line, and those 2 heaters in this sauna would be on one line. But this is all really easy, because these power supplies aren't really that difficult, and the heaters, you'll know the heaters because the heaters are going to have generally much thicker wire, right? Just much thicker wire here. Once you find that out, you can go ahead and if you've taken all your photos, go ahead and just take everything out, because it's going to be pretty easy at this moving forward. So the first thing that you want to do when you have this power supply is you want to go ahead and install the controller, the line for the controller. So if you have 2 controllers, this system only comes with 1 controller, and there's a reason for that. When you jumper controllers together, like some brands have done in the past, where you have one on the outside, one on the inside, the one on the inside generally gets hot, right? Because you're heating up these controllers. Well, these sauna manufacturers, unfortunately, built most of their controllers to work on the outside of the controller. So when they jumpered and put one on the inside, and it got too hot, it would fail all the time. So that was that's a little inside secret there of what has happened. But if you have two controllers, one on the outside, just leave the one on the outside, and then you're going to have to mount the one on the inside. So the first thing that you have here on this controller is you're going to have two, basically two connections here, two different cables. So the top one is going to be a 6-pin connector here, as you can see, and you can go ahead and just plug it in here on the top. So and run that wire. It's going to have this CB radio looking connection on the end. It's the best type of connection for power supplies. You're going to want to run this wire down up to your power supply, and you're going to want to line up. If you can see there, it's got a little notch, so you're going to want to line that notch up. Here, I'll try to do this. Here we go. You're going to want to line that notch up. It goes in perfectly. Kind of squeeze it down a little bit, and then go ahead and tighten the nut that's on there. So that's wire number one for your controller. Wire number two is going to be this cable here, and this cable is going to be for the Bluetooth and the audio, and it's going to go right here, and I believe this is a 4-pin, so you want to just go ahead and connect that 4-pin cable here on the controller. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. There you go. So those are the two connections into the controller. Oh, I want to mention one more thing too here. We did add these for 2023. So if you would rather basically not make a hole the size for this controller into your sauna, and you just want to mount it on basically the wall, you can do so with these. So this was a customer request that we got over and over. Okay, so back to this. So you want to take that one, and it's going to have this connector here, and on your power supply you're going to want to find the connector here where it says USB. It's upside down here, but you want to find that USB, and I'm going to go ahead and put the camera down here so I can connect this. So you want to go ahead and connect that. Again, excuse me, you're going to be running all these wires. It's not usually far. Like the controller is generally very close into the ceiling up there, like into the sauna, into the wall, and then your power supply is usually going to sit up top there. So you're not running those wires that far. So basically you have now both the controller and the power supply, or the controller hooked up to the power supply. So that's step number one. So that's pretty much the easy step. Excuse me. So now your controller is going to operate the power supply. So now we move on to the next part, which is going to be your heaters, right? So this is a little bit more complicated part that people have, but a lot of people overcomplicate it because it's not that hard, right? So you're going to get 6 of these cables. On the power supply here, there's going to be 6 of these IEC3. So there's 5 here on this side, and there's 1 on the top, right? And then obviously you're going to see it on the schematic here. So if you have more than 6 connectors on your old power supply, you're going to have to, and this is where it gets a little complicated. And if that's the case, you might want to hire an electrician to help you out with that. So, but really simple. So you would just cut the cables, the cable from your heater, and you just want to go ahead and plug one of these in, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put this down a second. So you're going to want to go ahead and plug, so that's one heater, it's plugged in, make sure it's fully sealed. And then what you want to do is you want to take these 3 cables, which is super easy. You have your ground, which is your green, you have your neutral, which is white, and black, which is power. In 120 volt, this white and black really, it should make a difference. But I always tell people that if you hooked up your heater and one of them's not working, just swap the neutral and power, because your sauna was wired in a way that is more Asia or Chinese based than it is how America works on how they do this. So so you basically hook up each one of your heater. Like I said, it's not complicated. You just have to follow, basic, electricity, and hook up every single heater. So replace every single heater with what we call, these are jumper cables. Now, if you got lucky and you have these connections already, all you have to do is plug them in. That simple. So super, super easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this. So now that your heaters are done, again, super easy. Your controller's wired, your heaters are done. Now let's move on to the next part of this. Oh, and by the way, we do include these now in our kits. These are basically, they've taken over wire nuts. We used to say back in the day that everybody should solder all the wires, to make it better. And then people just use wire nuts. But these, we're generally going to include about, I think 12 is what we put in the box. These are not cheap, but these are really awesome because basically you just put the two cables that you're trying to connect, you put one in one slot, the other in the other, and you basically crimp it down, and it's a full connection. And these are UL listed too, so it's pretty cool. These are saves a lot of time, saves a lot of everything. So let's move on. So the next two things that you're going to have in your sauna are either going to be an LED light or your lighting system, and then speakers that are inside of your sauna. So this is actually really easy. Our power supplies it's always going to come with this connector here. This is a connector that we've used in the past, and for some of our custom builds that we do, we use this connector. You are not going to use this connector, so you are going to just cut this off, right? This connector, go ahead and just cut this connector off. And this is 12 volt, okay? So I want everybody to understand that this is 12 volt only, and it's going to say it here on the tag. You cannot plug this in if your sauna runs a 120 volt lamp, right, inside of it. You cannot use this, right? You can't use this. How do you find out? Well, generally speaking, if you look at your old power supply, it's going to be a much thicker wire than this. So 12 volts generally very small wire, and your 120 volt wire is going to be much thicker. So that's the easy way to tell. But this is just positive and negative, super easy, positive, negative. Here's your wiring here. So you're going to have wiring, positive and negative, black and red. And then you just run this to your existing lights in your sauna. Super easy. Again, it's not none of this is really rocket science in the terms of electricity, and it's 12 volt. The next thing you're going to have is your speaker cables here. And now again, this is our own proprietary connector. You can go ahead and just cut this connector right off. And they're going to be labeled here. If you can see it, let me see if it. So positive, and negative, and then you cut these off, and then you connect to the speaker wire that's already coming to your old power supply. So again, that's super easy. So we've tried to make this is just kind of easy and universal as possible. If you don't have a lot of skills on electricity, or you don't know how to test for voltage, I would definitely hire somebody to do it. But again, it's not like we're dealing with a super crazy wiring, unless you're prior to 2005. This should be pretty easy. The last thing I want to talk to everyone about is your power cable, right? So your power cable is right here, your connection's right here. When you plug it in, make sure that it's fully seated into here. A lot of people don't fully seat this, but this is a UL listed power cable, so it's tight, right? So it's got much higher standards. And then of course, you need to know if you have a 15 amp, a 20 amp, or a 240, and then we send you the right power cable. But then you just run this power cable to the wall, and you're all set.